Today, I'm going to talk about 4 poor, pun intended, money lessons that pretty much all of us have been taught. Now, I do want to give you fair warning. Today's video may be triggering because we are going to be talking about money. So use your best judgment on if you are ready and want to hear about this and learn. I have to say personally, I debated whether or not to post this video or even record it in the first place for that very reason. However, as you can tell from this video being up here, posting it won out, and the biggest reason for that was because these are 4 lessons that made a really big difference to me on my own journey growing up in a middle class household where my dad supported a family of 4 on one very middle income salary, all the way on my journey to working through my own money blocks to making my first million before 27. And when I say that, I don't share it to brag. So again, another triggering alert. It's because I think it's important for you to know where I'm coming from and my experience in terms of why I believe sharing these lessons with you is incredibly important. With that, let's get into the first lesson that pretty much all of us have been taught, which is that selling is bad. I cannot tell you how many times I have seen on YouTube, on really any social media platform and in general, where when someone starts to sell something, people make the meanest comments like, "You're a sellout, how could you sell? Oh my gosh, you just care about the money." And even thinking back to my childhood, I was taught that talking about money, that selling is just ew. I remember specifically one instance where in high school, we were given an opportunity to participate in a fundraiser, and if we sold 20 pens, that we would get a free ticket to prom. Now, a prom ticket was, I think, maybe $200 or more, and I knew my parents probably were not going to pay that for me, and so I saw my one opportunity to be able to go to prom. So I got really excited, I came home, I said to my dad, "Oh my gosh, Dad, look, this is a way to earn a free prom ticket, and so can you please take this to work and just ask your friends to buy a pen? I mean, a pen is like $10, $20. They'll want to help you out because you buy their kids' stuff all the time too." And he looked at me and his face was just a wall and said, "No, we don't do that." And that is one of my first memories of how bad selling is. As a side note, thankfully, I had a really kind neighbor who actually ended up taking the pens to her work and selling them for me, so I did get to go to prom, but that's a story for another day. Back to selling being bad and what a negative impact it can have on you. For years at work, I really put off promoting myself or really even talking about anything I'd done because it just felt so gross. For years, when I was starting my business, I really shied away from talking about my credentials or my expertise or even owning that I was good at what I was doing. I just gave and gave and gave to try and help people realize, hey, okay, this person knows what she's talking about, even though she really is not owning it. Here's the reframe that hopefully will help you shift this or start to shift this. When you spend your money on something you want to buy, whether that's educational content for yourself, like a course or a coach or a mentor, or maybe something you love, like a nice pair of shoes or a nice blouse or whatever it is that you enjoy spending your money on, how do you feel when you buy that thing? I'm pretty sure you're not thinking, "Oh my gosh, this person, how dare they sell to me? I feel so bad that they're taking my money and I'm being forced to buy it," right? You're probably feeling excited about getting those new shoes or excited about this course you're gonna jump into and work on for yourself or this book that you're excited to dig into. And maybe even beyond that, you're thinking, "Oh my gosh, thank goodness I found this. Oh, I've been looking for it. This is gonna be so helpful. This is gonna save me so much time," or something along those lines. When you think about that, what is the person who has sold to you doing? They have essentially helped you out in some way, shape, or form, whether it's through teaching you something or giving you something nice that you can then wear or use and enjoy. And if they hadn't sold that thing, you wouldn't know about it and you wouldn't have that. So when you ground into that for yourself, you can be on the other side of that with a very different perspective. And that perspective is, you're not forcing or tricking anyone into buying from you. Guess what? People are smart. We are smart. We make our own money decisions. No one is tricking or forcing us into parting with our hard-earned money. Instead, most of the time when people buy from you, they want that thing that you're selling. That's why they're putting their money there. And so for you, what that means is when you're selling, you are providing a service that people want. And if no one knows about it, in other words, if you're not selling it, you're not able to help those people who want that. Now, of course, this is also impacted by how you're selling. If you're listening to some sleazy tactics, that's not gonna feel good. That's not gonna feel like you're being of service. However, when you're selling from this place that we're talking about of, hey, I've created something amazing and valuable, whether it's something I've contributed at work or a service or a course I've created in my business, and I so believe that this can make a difference to you, my employer, my client, then you're able to come from this place of sharing it with that belief and knowing it is going to be worth it to your employer who's paying you, who's essentially buying that service or thing from you, or a client who's buying from you. And so it becomes your job to sell, to let people know about it so that they can decide, hey, do I connect with this person? Do I believe in what they're saying? Do I believe that they believe in whatever it is that they're offering? Do I want it? Is it going to help me? And if this is the thing, okay, great. Thank you for letting me know about it. So that is a first reframe where really selling is your job because of the reasons that we just talked through. No matter if you're in a job or in a business, the principle is the same. The second money lesson that most of us have been taught is that talking about money is not okay. Maybe it's not safe, it's not the polite thing to do, it's just not done. And you know, of course, that makes sense to a certain extent. You don't want to be flaunting your financial statements all over the internet. However, the truth is when we normalize talking about money, we normalize our emotions around it and make it just another thing. So think about it. When you think about money right now, so for me, growing up, money was just not something you talked about at home. I never heard my parents discuss money. And the one time I asked my parents, hey, do you guys do budgeting or saving? My dad said, we don't talk about that. We don't do budgeting. Their philosophy was essentially to be super, super frugal and save as much as possible and then not talk about money. But what that translated to me was, okay, money is something gross that we don't even talk about, and you feel this like guilt and shame around it. And you also feel guilt and shame around wanting to make more and learn about even handling money. Maybe you have some of those same emotions or something different but still negative depending on how you were raised. One of the reasons I love the online business world and especially the online coaching and course industry is because we're starting to normalize talking about money. People talk about their income reports and how much they've spent. And you know, when starting out, that was one of the most helpful things to me. First, to see, oh my gosh, there are people making millions of dollars, normal, everyday people like me. Whoa, right? It's not just some theoretical, super special millionaires and multimillionaires and billionaires making this money. This is something that may be possible for me. Beyond that, talking about spending it and budgeting it was so helpful for me to see because it helps me internalize that, oh, managing money can be a skill like any other. You get to remove the negative emotion. You get to remove the things that you think, the guilt, the shame, the, oh my gosh, it's bad to want more money, all the lessons that we've been raised with to realize, okay, if I tie it into lesson number 1 that we just talked through, selling is of service, then the more money I make, the more sales I'm making, the more of service I'm being, and wanting to make it is not a bad thing. It can be a normal thing to want to earn more, to experience more, to be able to give more, all of those things. Thinking about that, earning more, managing it can be just another skill, another aspect of life I get to enjoy and grow through. And it takes it from the, oh, we don't talk about that, to, oh, This is just another thing that we talk about and share. Sit with that for a bit. I remember when I first started talking about money and reading about it, I had this really tight, uncomfortable sensation in my body because it was just, so uncomfortable. It took me a really long time to get comfortable with that, to be honest. But the more I did, the more I was comfortable selling, the more I was comfortable talking and teaching about money, the more I was able to earn as a result, and the more my students and clients earned as a result from shifting that thinking for themselves as well. So it's a positive impact that affects not only you, but everyone around you. All right, I'm feeling the emotions. I don't know if you are too, but that brings me to lesson number 3, which is that sharing your successes, the results of your financial successes, is bad. It's just bragging, it's arrogant, it's negative. There's a fine line here, right? You don't want to be saying people's faces, oh my gosh, look at me, I'm so much better than everyone else because I have made this much money. That's not the point here. But again, when you refer back to the first 2 lessons we just covered, you can completely shift how the world is changing nowadays. The more we are in integrity, the more we serve, the more money we make. I mean, look at YouTube alone. How many people are just sharing great content and earning crazy, amazing amounts of money because of it? That can completely allow us to shift how we think about ourselves and allowing ourselves to make money too, which also shifts into feeling more comfortable sharing that with others. These days, I don't go into my specific, okay, I made this amount of money, because I've already shared, hey, earlier on in my business journey, detailed breakdowns of how I made my money and how I spent it. And so that's there. What I do continue to share, and honestly, I have to fight my internal resistance because I still hear my parents in my head telling me things like, that's just not done. However, the reason why I continue to share that, and I'm so grateful for others who do something similar, is that when I was starting out, seeing people have the lifestyle that I craved, being able to stay at really nice hotels, being able to just take time off and travel the world, right? Not even like 5-star travel, just being able to do that. People sharing that they didn't think about how much money they were spending when buying groceries, people having nicer homes, all of those things helped me open up my mind to realize what might be possible for me as well. I grew up in a really middle class home, and the best example of that is my first salary. I was making about $60,000 to $70,000 a year. My dad was like, oh my gosh, you're not worth that much. How could you be making that much just coming out of college? And I never imagined that I would make much more than that, frankly. Maybe I dreamed of making 6 figures, but that was a stretch. And so just realizing what could be out there allowed me to shift and start dreaming bigger for myself and realize, okay, maybe one day that might be possible for me. And then as time went on, it normalized that for me bit by bit. Obviously, it took time, it wasn't overnight, but just seeing what was around me allowed me to dream. Think about it. If you were surrounded by people who went to good colleges, you probably normalized that as the norm for yourself. If you were surrounded by really fit people or people who had certain standards, right? You normalize that for yourself. And it can be the same thing with money. The more we see what's possible, the more we can internalize it and start to dream and create that for ourselves as well. The final note I'll say about this is I want you to think about this. If you want something like the lifestyle, the income that someone has, and if you're being triggered by what they're sharing, and yes, there might be some people sharing it from a place of wanting to brag, but that's also their right to do that. The only thing we can control is how we perceive it. And so if you are being triggered by that, it might be good to examine, hey, why might this be triggering me? Oh, it's triggering me because I don't really believe I can create that for myself. When you realize that, it allows you to work through your own limiting beliefs so that you can go on and appreciate that proof that, hey, other people are doing this. Hey, that means I can do this and have this for myself as well. And when you do that, it just creates so much more possibility and optimism and excitement and growth for you. The final money lesson that I want to cover today is this idea of them, the successful people, the rich people versus us. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but essentially the way I was raised was, hey, we are this type of people. We are good people. We don't have that much money, but we're the good guys. That's basically what it felt like my parents were trying to teach me. And people with money, they're the bad guys, right? They're those people. We're not those people. So we're not the bad people, but we're also not the rich people. And so growing up, this mentality I started becoming aware of was that whenever I saw someone with success or with wealth, kind of the things that I didn't even really dare dream about, but deep down wanted, I was thinking, oh, that's them. Right? And so what does that create? It creates thoughts of, hey, maybe they're special for how they've been able to get that money. Like they have something that I don't. Maybe they're smarter, they're more charismatic, they're luckier, they had a better start, they're more personable, whatever random reasons came to mind. And it was just thinking, okay, you know what? Good for them. And that's great, but there's no relation to them achieving that and me achieving that. Over time, I started really realizing that was holding me back. I started looking for proof that anybody who is good and hardworking and wants to provide something valuable to the world can create more financial income for themselves and more impact and more freedom. I started finding it. One of the things that really stood out to me was when I stumbled upon this quote by Spanx founder Sarah Blakely, who at one point was the youngest self-made billionaire in either America or the world, either way. And she said, no, I've just found that money makes you more of who you are. When I first heard that, I remember thinking, oh, well, that's really different from everything I've ever been taught. It's not that you either have money or you don't. You're the type of person who's rich or the type of person who's poor. Or not poor, but not rich. It's just this thing you have, just like having clothes. It's just a thing that makes you more of who you are and allows you to be more of who you are. And it's not a certain type of person or not who has it. It's just you can have it too. Just like you can have good style. You can learn to have good style. You can learn to dress better. You can learn to get more fit. All of those things. It's just another thing. And just as you have better style, maybe you feel a little bit more confident, are able to be more you. Or if you're more fit, you feel more confident, are able to be more you. Same thing with if you have more money, maybe you have more confidence, you're able to use it better, you're able to use it, invest it in yourself, of course, spend it, enjoy your life more, all of those things. And with that, you get to be more of yourself, not less, or you have to sacrifice your integrity or things like that. And so once I realized that, I started looking for proof that, hey, the people who are successful and self-made, a lot of them, they start off where I was or worse, and they learned, they grew, they worked on not only, of course, whatever stuff they were working on to help the world and be more of service, and as a result grow their income, but also on the way they thought about money, their skills around handling money and how they viewed it, all the stuff that we've been talking about. And as a result, they were able to become more of themselves, just the version of themselves with more money. Just like you can be a version of yourself with more money, with better clothes, with being more fit, or speaking more languages, really any skill. And as I started to think in that way, I started to realize, oh, okay, maybe that's possible for me too. Through all of these really shifted how I viewed money and allowed me to be more of service, to sell more without feeling like I was being a bad person, and as a result, create more impact, help more people, become more myself, more confident in the value I was adding to the world. And as a result of all of that, make more money too. And then from there, it just continues to snowball. As you make more money, you get to create this impact for those around you. You get to kind of share that with them, change their thinking, allow them to enjoy more money, make more money, change the way they think about money. And then from there, it just compounds. The more you realize that, the more you embrace that, the more you are open to the possibilities of what's possible for you. And as you can see, it's really, yes, money is a huge piece of it, but it's really about all the things that come when you allow yourself to change the way you think about all of this and really open yourself up to all the possibilities as a result. Okay, So I am feeling the energy from everything that we just talked about, and I hope you are as well. And if you are and you're starting to think, okay, maybe I can shift this for myself too. How can I get started? And one of the things you've been thinking about is potentially starting your own side business and maybe growing it into a full-time business. What I've got for you is another really great video talking about how I built a six-figure business from scratch while working my 9-to-5. So I'm gonna share that with you. You can find it either somewhere on the screen and or in the description below. What's more, to also help you get started, I've got a great PDF on the 15-second script to use to get your first or next paying client. So once you've got that, right, it makes it so much more tangible. You start to feel into all of these. You get to test a lot of the lessons that we talked about today where you're selling, you're realizing how much service you're being, and you're realizing that money exchange is nothing bad. It's actually one of the best exchanges possible in the world for you and the person you're working with and helping. So if you want that PDF, again, I'll link it for you somewhere on the screen and or in the description below. Also, if you have enjoyed this video, you want to learn more about succeeding as an entrepreneur and in business and really all aspects of that, go ahead and click subscribe and the bell to be notified every week when I drop another great new video. So that is it for today. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time.